looked over them and didn't see any changes. So I would move to approve.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Nice and easy. All right. Number 3, we have several requests, recommendations for dollars from the Unassigned Reserve Fund Projects. I assume we'll take these separately, probably. Okay. And I will turn it over to Braxton Copley.
Okay, the agenda item 3A is for the use of $125,662 of the unassigned reserve funds. These are to address site improvements, specifically sidewalk that is in disrepair, that has trip hazards, repairs to the loading dock, as well as an ADA accessible route from Topeka Boulevard to Hotel Topeka. The trip hazards and the loading dock repairs were identified as the critical needs in the property condition assessment. In addition to that, one of the highest priorities that was listed in the ADA assessment was to have an accessible route from Topeka Boulevard to Hotel Topeka. Right now, a person would be required to walk on the street to get from the sidewalk. Gladly stand for any questions. Josh is here. Josh provided the update that of the basically of the $11.7 million of the fund balance, there is $10.5 million remaining, which would certainly more than cover the $125,662 that I'm asking for.
All right. Are there any questions to this specific request from any of the other members of the committee?
No.
Okay.
No question.
You said you did have a question or no questions? Sorry.
No question.
Okay. Thanks, Marcus.
Okay, well, I'll move for approval.
Yep. Second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Nice and easy. Number 2.
Thank you. The second item that I have is a request for $59,589.19. This would be to address approximately 34 dampers that are not working correctly. It's more specifically, it's the actuator on the damper is not working correctly. This was identified in the property condition assessment as one of the critical life safety issues. Currently, we have cut the electrical feed to these dampers so that they have failed in a closed position, so that we have remedied the worst possible life safety issue, because they were being held open with vice grips. So we got rid of the vice grips, cut the electrical feed, they're failed in a closed position. The access panels are approximately 6 inches by 6 inches. These actuators and dampers are in almost 24 inches, so there is no way that you could replace them, much less do any meaningful work on these. So as part of this project cost includes going in and cutting out drywall to put access panels that would be sufficiently sized so that in future we could do work on these actuators. And so with that, I will gladly stand for any questions and respectfully ask for approval of this funding request.
Questions or comments from the committee?
Are the rooms currently are they hotel rooms where this is affected, and are they being used, or?
Yes. So we typically have about 23 events per year where we have a 90% occupancy or greater. We have been at 100% occupancy for a couple of our events, like the wrestling tournament, right? So these rooms are available and being used. Again, the critical life safety issue has been addressed by cutting the electrical feed so that these dampers fail in that closed position. Now there's a quality of life issue because you're no longer able to pull makeup air out of the atrium into the room, right? But the critical life safety issue has been addressed.
What's the time frame on being able to get these in and do the work?
That's a good question. I'm assuming that we'll be able to get the actuators within a month, and then have both of our contractors there, drywall contractor, probably looking at another month
Okay.
to do these.
Makes sense.
Okay. I'd put them as a priority.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if Marcus.
Any other questions or comments? If none, I would, oh,
Nope.
all right, if none,
Okay.
I would accept the motion.
I move to approve this expenditure.
I will second that. There's an aye. So all the rest of us in favor or opposed, say aye.
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 Thank you. And
All
then
right.
these will be on the TDC agenda for tonight
Tonight.
as a conditional approval. And then
So
they
you
will
can
be
get
on
next
the
week's.
city council agenda next week for the full
As an action
approval of
item.
the use of the reserve funds. Once that happens, then I will get with the contractor and get them directed to start on this immediately.
Perfect. Thank you, Braxton. Do we have anyone here to talk to us about these portable radios?
He's on.
Chief's on.
Okay, is he? Oh, he is, all right. All right, well then, the next item is portable radio lease. You're up, chief.
Yes, sir. So we are in year 2 of a 5-year lease purchase for the replacement of our portable radio system that we use on emergency calls. This was approved prior when it went through the council. This came up as part of the unassigned reserve funds as a way to alleviate and free up some funding over the next 3 years within the budget, the operating budget, as we would not have these lease payments, and it would also save literally $2,000 in interest over the term of the lease instead of making the annual lease payments for the term through the end of 27. So this amount of $605,556 pays the lease off in full and completes that term now, rather than paying it out in yearly increments through 2027.
So question, the last radios we had before this, we had for 10 years. Now maybe that was a few years too long. I honestly don't know. So this is a 5-year lease for these radios. When this lease is up, will we be releasing the same radios or looking at a new lease with new radios or different
No, sir.
radios?
No, sir. So the radios we originally had were actually purchased by the county when we went to the new digital system back a number of years ago. That was that whole city-county project. I believe Chief.
Is that Wi-Fi over there at the old?
The police chief was one of the city's big representatives in that at the time. But I apologize. Am I breaking up?
You broke up there for just a moment. Go ahead.
Okay, I apologize. So this lease purchase replaced those radios. Those radios were actually over 10 years old that we replaced. These radios, it would be minimum of an additional 5 years beyond that, so not till 2032 or a year or two after that before we would need to replace radios again.
Okay, so just to clarify, because I think so we're going to have these radios for 10 years, but we're doing maybe 2 5-year leases.
No, it was just a 1 5-year lease.
So what happens in 3 years? Right? This
In 3
lease
years-
is up in 3 years, correct?
Right.
So then what happens?
And it just, that lease would be over. We were scheduled in CIP starting in 2028 to then start a 5-year lease program for the replacement of our SCBAs. And that would be when they were at the 10-year mark when they're supposed to be replaced. So what had been, prior to me taking over as chief, what had been scheduled in CIP was a rotating 5-year lease program, 5 years for the radios, and then the next 5 years for SCBAs, and then they would just leapfrog because these are personal protective equipment items that are by standard normally used for 10 years and then replaced.
Okay, gotcha. Perfect, thank you. Any other questions? comments? All right, so basically pay now and we save $52,000. It's hard to pass that up, at least from my perspective. Got to pay it eventually. All right, well, if there's no other comments or questions.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, we get to talk ARPA.
Oh, boy.
This actually may not be too painful. It looks like since we met last time, a few projects either got their money or we figured out the accounting because it went from a couple $100,000 down. We're under $1 million now, so that's a little less than last time. So that's a good sign. I was also talking to staff before this, so I'll put this out at the start of this meeting as we get into this conversation because I know we're all starting to get questions about, hey, what are you going to do with the money if it's not spent? And I understand why there's groups out there asking that money. Totally understandable question. But what I have told those folks to date is our first and primary goal at this point over the next several months is to continue our commitment to make sure that these groups who we thought at the time were worthy of these dollars get the money. And so our energy and efforts will be spent on making sure that we can, if whatever the hiccups are, if we as a city can help them jump those hurdles, good for us, get them their funds. Then, October-ish, we can sit down as a group, and if we determine that there will be dollars left over, have that conversation amongst ourselves and amongst the community about, okay, in these next couple months, what do we want to do with the money? So I don't say that to discourage anyone from asking the question. It's a totally valid question, but I do want to tell people you got to hold off just a few more months. We don't have the answer you're looking for yet, because right now for the next few months, our goal is to help those who have already been pledged this money. And so just want everyone to know that. So if you get asked that question, there's your answer, if it helps guide that direction. And we will make sure, as we always have through this whole process, that that's very open and public and transparent as we do that. So wanted to put that out there before we start this process. Is there anything staff wants to say before we get going?
I guess we have some good news is that on the first page of that ARPA document that we sent out in the packet, Child Care Aware, they actually had a withdrawal yesterday. So there was a withdrawal of $137,000. So now the remaining balance to distribute is going to be $237,000. And then they will plan to make the rest of their drawdown in late December. So we don't anticipate any warning signs with them. They're going to have their money fully withdrawn.
Okay.
You said 200 what?
$237,000.
Thank you.
And then go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to start, because really that was the plan. Staff had asked what my goal here was today, and that was it right there, was to just look at folks who had money left and then sort of ask them, okay, have we communicated with them? Does it sound, and it sounds in this case that they're on pace, we understand what their plan is, they're meeting the original goal of the money, and they're on pace to do it. Or if we do have any either concerns, hiccups, like, we're a little concerned, or we haven't heard from them still, we can have that conversation as a group as to what steps we think we should start taking. So that was the first one on the list, so I guess that answers that question.
Yeah, and then, so the next one is the Oasis Grocer Group. So the original scope was for them to buy freezer equipment. Now we've distributed half of that money of the $628,000 to them, but they have not yet have an open purchase order, to my knowledge. In April, you correct me if I'm wrong, on that equipment. So we are quote unquote worried about it since they have not had an open purchase order, and obviously the money has to be obligated before the end of the year.
And does that include for the total amount? So I know they've taken money out because maybe they needed that to start that process. But when we talk about, even though they haven't withdrawn 314, are we talking at this point that really we don't think any of their 628 has actually been encumbered yet?
Yes, that is a correct reading.
Okay, that's an important clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I understand, so, okay. And I do know, I got an email from them this week, and I sent them a letter. I know they are applying for a grant that I think will be decided in the next few months that will help them, I guess, finalize what maybe the full cost of that equipment is. So I don't know what I guess I will take it upon myself to talk to them and see what their path is. And if they have one on those dollars, because obviously that was one of our largest distributions. So that's not only just a large piece of money that we want to make sure gets spent, but that would either come back to us, or like I said, if they've got a gap or something, we need to find out what's going to take for them to buy that equipment. And I know they're trying to figure it out too, but the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking.
We gotta get that done.
Any questions or comments on that one? I will take that one on.
Thank you, Spencer.
All right, what else do we have on here?
That's it.
Is that it? That's all we're
just
down
the
to?
two. Yeah, we had a lot clean up.
That is good. So can you walk us through what is our follow-up right now with, because to that point, we know some have taken money out. And I know this is where as you're probably learning as you've dug into the history of ARPA, it gets very gray area as to what the follow-up process is required by the feds to make sure people are spending it properly. But I mean, is everyone up to date on their reports? Do we feel confident that the money's being spent as it was supposed to? Do we have any concerns of any of the groups?
So there's one group that we've had trouble getting their quarterly reports from, which is the North Topeka Outreach Group.
Okay.
I think I emailed the committee, we tell them we played phone tag a lot of the times, and like, we're just not having any luck, so it may be time for someone on the committee to reach out personally, just so we can get to compliance on them. But other than that, unless you have anything, I don't think there's any worries with any of the other groups, to
Okay.
our knowledge.
Well, if you will send me their information.
Yeah, I'll do that after the
Okay,
meeting.
and then have they ever turned in any of the reports under the contract?
No.
Will you send me a copy of their contract and then anything else we've got from them, and I'll reach out to them.
Gotcha,
Have that
yeah.
Conversation. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, they're down on the.
second one on from the top.
Yeah, there's second one on the top, on the
Yeah,
first page.
Yep. Yep. Well, that was even easier than I thought it'd be. But that's good. The good news is it means these dollars of our almost 10 million are out in the community, being used as intended, hopefully doing some good out there as we intended. And I'm glad to see the follow-up because, again, I know you guys weren't here when any of this went down. So you've had to play catch-up and do your homework to figure out what in the heck we did and how all these contracts work and what the ridiculous ARPA guidelines were as they changed weekly at one point during our deliberations. So questions or comments from the committee?
I don't think so. Have you ever had any communication with that Topeka North Outreach?
That's the one we were talking
Before-
about.
I know before now.
I have, not outside of the ARPA process, so a
Right.
couple years ago, no. So I do remember them coming and speaking at one of the meetings, but
Okay,
that's about it, yeah.
Okay.
In their application.
thank you.
So hopefully they've been able to use that to feed some kids. And I actually think theirs was for refrigerators. I gotta go back and look for equipment, I think, not just like meals, so, because they needed it to make sure they could keep the program going,
Yeah,
so.
that should be an easy.
Yeah, so it was for
Receipt then.
infrastructure stuff, not just general operating dollars, is my recollection.
Okay, thank you.
It's all running together a little bit. but I'm pretty sure I remember that. Any questions, Michelle?
No.
Comments?
I'm good.
Well, thank you for your work on that. We'll do the follow-up on our end, and then, like I said,
Yeah, and we'll send you
So
the
you
contract
decide.
and the contact information for them
I'll
right
call
after
them
this.
and I'll talk to the grocery folks. Go from there. You have anything, city manager? Okay, looked like you might. All right.
Yeah, I do.
Uh-oh.
I would suggest in the future that you have contracts with the organizations that you give money to. And you might have contracts, but you ought to have a clause in there about what happens if they don't spend the money within a certain period of time.
Well, I think we do.
Yeah.
It's just if they don't call us back, that's why I'd prefer not to enforce the contract and make them give us money back, especially because it's probably been spent, but,
Well,
you know.
I understand that too. That's the political side of it.
Well, it's also, I think if we can't prove it, then the feds are gonna say, write us a check for $20,000. I don't wanna do that either.
Yeah.
Feds don't need our money,
Yeah.
not today at least. All right.
I just like that file copy.
That's right. Have anyone here who wanted to say anything today? Just want to make sure. You don't have to. I just want to make sure I don't pass over
I
anybody.
just wanted to say thank you very much. And we've been through, we appreciate the opportunity. And then I know there's been a lot of transition with ARPA, so we've been trying to keep up consistently and sending updates for what we're doing. And we're going after some other grants as well.
You want to go to the mic and say that?
Just thank you very much. Mr. Braxton left. Mr. Rice got something to say. Braxton. I said, thank you for opening up early. So I'll have to come to the council.
All right. For all those who couldn't hear at home, it was just some thank yous for the process. I see that Councilmember Valdivia Alcala is online. Do you have anything, not to put you on the spot, wanted to comment on? Or you were very much a part of this process?
I do. I think, Spencer, you remember how hard we worked in conjunction with the community. And I've already stated that the intentional work, like serious work that we went through, and you chairing the committee and us putting our heads together along with community, really shows the power of bringing community together along in the dialogue. And it's really heartening to see that out of that $10 million that, we had to ask folks, cut your budgets, cut your amounts, and everybody was so receptive to that. Out of that 10 million, we have a very small amount left. And to me, that shows that there was thoughtful planning in the budgets when requesting this money. I do think, because I don't think sometimes with the really strong and powerful initiatives that we have and successes that we have, that we toot our own horn enough. That's the successes that have been a part of this $10 million moving forward. We really should consider, I don't know if it would be you all under policy and finance or how it would work, to have segments that face out to the community to let them know the successes that have been found with the allocation of this $10 million, money that we understand will never be seen again. So, Spencer, you did an excellent job as chair, and I know it was really, really hard work, but I think we're seeing the fruition from this work. So I'm just saying thank you.
I think that's a really great point, because I know over the last couple months I've seen some projects be announced in this community, and it's fine they didn't name check us. It's all right. My feelings aren't hurt. I understand. But I also know they are directly a result of these dollars, and so mostly I've just been very proud to see that those dollars are doing exactly what we intended. So yes, I would suggest to staff, those are probably, as we go through some of these, some good follow-ups to just go check in and let the community know, hey, this is finally here, and it's totally was exactly what it was intended to be, a collaborative effort. Us looking to see where the resources were needed by the community, making sure they got what they needed, and them now going and doing the real work. Writing the check was kind of the easy part, although it didn't always seem like that at times, right? But thank goodness for those community members who actually have done exactly what they promised, exactly what they said they would do with those dollars, and it's now benefiting the community. So I think the Councilwoman's point's an excellent one, that there's some really good things we can do to trumpet our small role in that progress. Yeah, I was gonna say, is there anyone online who'd like to make any comments?
Hi, this is Danielle Twinlow. I apologize. I missed a little bit portion. I am on vacation and have some spotty internet, and this may have been answered, but first I do want to commend, just echoing those same sentiments about how helpful these funds have been in our community and the successes that have come from it, and really elaborating on what those are. I think that's a great idea. But I also hope that we keep in mind that when we increase funding to organizations in our community and to these social services, that we really do see a lot of positive change. And I hope we really look at that moving forward in our budgeting and other processes that we do citywide on how we're allocating funds and how we are looking at continuing this type of, obviously maybe not being able to provide that same level of funding, but really increasing the way that looks moving forward to our social service agencies, because it really would be good to also see what kind of data we could get from the impact in each of these programs to show that increasing the social service fundings and increasing the ability for these types of organizations to serve more people and do their work, how it improves those social determinants of health. So I think that's a great idea and follow up. And maybe it was discussed, like I said, my internet kicked out a wee bit, but you know, some hopes that as this process goes on, that if there are funds that you all are not able to assist people in finishing their spending, I'm really excited to hear that you'll be following up with people to make sure that you can assist with getting that fund spent for them as they intended. But if there are programs where it's just not possible and doable, I hope that there could be ways to look at reinvesting that money in additional social services or additional projects that are happening within the community, and I certainly have some ideas. So just throwing that out there, and appreciate all the work you do.
Thank you, Danielle. Excuse me. Anyone else? Final comments? All right. Any committee members have any thoughts? Anything at all, whether it's related to ARPA or anything else you want to bring up in the moment?
I don't think so.
All right, I will ask Liz to look at a meeting date for later next month, mid to late next month, because I know there may be a couple other requests for some of those unassigned funds money from some other departments that were on that original list. And there's also another issue as it relates to a few other things that were brought to me that they might want us to take a look at. Also in July, because we've tried to start this process early every year, so we're not doing it the last minute, we will take a first look at a first run of our the city's legislative policy for the 25 session, which seems crazy to think about in July, but that way it gives us a couple months to talk about stuff, and then we can start planning it with the council way prior to. Used to be we'd wait until December, and then there were too many questions, and then the session starts, and we're like, why didn't we talk about this earlier?
Yeah,
So about 2 years ago, we said, why don't we stop doing that and try to get ahead of it a little bit? And so that'll definitely also be an agenda item, and then anything else that comes to us. So, and then hopefully, we're gonna miss Richard, but the next time the new city manager will be able to attend that meeting also and figure out what we do over here. So
Sounds good.
with that, if there's nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.